Oh, hi guys. I'm an elf. Elf teching. Woo. Um, okay, I have probably asked you guys this question before. I mean, I've been talking about One Piece on the channel for like 6 or 7 years at this point, but I'm turning 30 pretty soon, so the memory is starting to go, so I'm just going to ask it here. What is your favorite devil fruit and why? Pretty simple question as far as being a One Piece fan is concerned. When you meet somebody else that is a One Piece fan, that's one of the first questions you're going to ask them. Who's your favorite character? Probably, shortly followed by what's your favorite devil fruit, right? And I get asked that question all the time on like every live stream I've ever done. I get asked the question of what's your favorite devil fruit? Why is that, So, yeah, what is your favorite devil fruit? Logia, Zone, Paramecia, Special Paramecia, Ancient Zone, Mythical Ancient Special Paramecia, Logia? I don't know. Let me know down below. I have a theory on which one out of my whole audience might actually be a fan favorite, but I don't want to say which one it is because I feel like that might skew the turnout. Somebody might just be like, "Oh yeah, that is mine." I'm like, I'll wait for a while. But yeah, what's your favorite devil fruit? Now, here's the thing. In the last chapter of One Piece, chapter 1070, we got some interesting information on how exactly artificial devil fruits are created. Seems to be that zones are pretty simple. They can kind of just come off in an assembly line. Now, mythical zones and I assume ancient zones are a little bit more difficult, but Vegapunk clarifies that with enough time and money and resources, he can replicate even those, as is the case with Kaido's Ua Ua no Mi model Azure Dragon, which is now in the possession of Momonosuke. Although he does deem that one a failure because Kaido's dragon is blue and Momo's dragon is pink, and that's like the big thing there. We also learned from him that Logias are really tricky, if not impossible to replicate. However, some people actually went ahead and mentioned this. Vegapunk did not actually say it was impossible for him to make an artificial Logia. He said they're very tricky, they're very difficult. I haven't been able to fully, replicate them. But you also have to remember, going along with Kaido's Devil Fruit idea, Vegapunk has insanely high standards for things. So Vegapunk saying that I couldn't quite, replicate a Logia or they're really tricky. Yeah, they probably are, but that doesn't mean he hasn't been able to develop maybe something similar to a Logia, okay? Now, going back to the whole Kizaru's Pika Pika no Mi, it could be he just based the lasers off of the Pika Pika and developed the lasers independently, like he was inspired by the Devil Fruit, so he made the lasers. Or maybe he attempted to replicate all of the Pika Pika no Mi, like the ability to phase and turn into light, like Kizaru can, but the only thing he was able to actually turn out of that was like a laser fruit. Like, he tried his best to make an artificial Pika Pika, but all he got was the ability to fire lasers. Still really powerful, just not what he wanted, so therefore he deemed it a failure. Let's hold off on that, though, because we're not here to talk about Logias today. That'll be a video for another day. Today, we're here to talk about Paramecias, because Vegapunk clarified that as long as he has the lineage factor of a Paramecia user, he can essentially replicate it. The way that he does this is he creates a substance called green blood. He takes this green blood, taken with the lineage factor of the Paramecia user, does some science stuff with it to turn it green, and then he puts that blood inside of the Seraphim, which are already an amalgam of King's Lunarian DNA and the DNA of Warlords, combines that together with the DNA of the Paramecia user, and then boom, you have essentially a clone of that Paramecia. Now, it's a little bit different than the way that artificial zones are created, where, Caesar had the smiles, and even Vegapunk actually created a real fruit of Kaido's Azure Dragon that, Momo then ate, okay? It seems like Vegapunk cannot actually create a separate fruit with the Paramecia power. He actually has to create that green blood substance and then add the blood to a Seraphim. Now, you start to get a few questions in your mind, like, what would happen, for example, if you took a normal citizen in the One Piece world, drained out all their blood, and replaced it with the green blood? Would it have the same effect, or would it just kill them? Because the Seraphim are, they have cybernetic enhancements too, because they can fire lasers and everything, so we don't really know exactly how Seraphim are built, but clearly they are not the same as regular human beings. So I'm not really sure if this method only works with the Seraphim, the Pacifista models, or it could work with anybody else. But, Vegapunk did not say that, like, oh, I can take Senor Pink's DNA and I can make a swim fruit, and then anybody could eat it and then receive the power. He's really more or less just cloning Senor Pink's DNA. And since we know that devil fruits, when you consume one, it actually alters your DNA as well, this makes sense, all right? So that means there's a little bit of Jinbei's DNA, a little bit of King's DNA, and a little bit of Senor Pink's DNA all inside of the Seraphim S shark. Now, the really crazy thing that I immediately thought of was all of the different Paramecia abilities that exist in One Piece, because it is the most abundant class of devil fruits. It's sort of like the miscellaneous category that Oda just kind of created. Like, all right, these fruits turn you into animals, these fruits give you the power of an element, and, you know, Oda could have created more classes of devil fruits. He was the author of this story. He could have made 5 or 6 different classes of devil fruits, but nope, he was just like elements, animals, everything else, okay? And so for that reason, there's a lot of Paramecias, okay? I think there's over, there's over 100 devil fruits, period, if you include everything. Last time I took a count of Paramecias, there's been a few since then, but it's been around like 70, probably over 80 right now, maybe even 90. There's a lot of Paramecias, okay? Now, the way that they were able to get the lineage factor for the swim fruit was because Senor Pink is currently a prisoner and impel down, so they could just go in and extract his lineage factor because he's in prison there in a government prison, okay? Same thing with the Paw fruit and the Love fruit that were taken from Kuma and Boa, respectively. They're both members of the Warlords. Boa was a slave at Marijois, you know, when she was a kid with her sister, so that's probably how they got her lineage factor there. That all makes sense on where those devil fruit powers came from. However, there's a lot more Paramecias that are in the Marines, that are, you know, Paramecia users that are imprisoned and impelled down, that are members of Cypherpole. So I have written up a handy little list to show you all the different Paramecia fruits that are on the table that Vegapunk could, in theory, create green blood and then give to a Seraphim. So, in the future, we may very well see some Seraphim that have these person's devil fruit abilities. I just listed the people that have the fruit rather than the name of the fruit itself, because I think it just makes it easier for you guys to just see the name of the person and associate that person with a devil fruit. Anyway, here's the list. Yep, this is sure a list. I'm looking at it right now from the other angle. All of them are backwards where I'm looking at them right now. But yeah, here's the list. All Marines, staff and impel down, prisoners and impel down, Cypherpole agents. Yeah, here we go. People that we have it. Okay, are we good? All right, is the list going? Okay, I'm assuming the list is gone now. All right, oh, look at that. Bye, list. Okay, so any of those people, any of them whose devil fruit is on the table. Couple of things to clarify with that list. Some people might question, like, how come this person wasn't on there? With Baroque Works, I did not include Mr. 5 or Miss Valentine or Miss Golden Week because the situation with, well, Miss Golden Week actually doesn't have a devil fruit power. That's the crazy thing. She's just has hypnotic abilities with her paint. But the reason Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine are on there is they were never imprisoned and impelled down. Only Mr. 2, Mr. 3, and Mr. 1 and Crocodile were imprisoned and impelled down as part of Baroque Works. The other members were captured and they were in prison for a time, but then they managed to escape. And they were not in impel down. They were just held at a random prison somewhere about to be transferred. Okay? I think the only way that Vegapunk could really get his hands on the lineage factors if they were already in impel down and he could just issue a blood sample to be taken. You know, there you go. However, if you want to include, like, every single person that ever gets arrested by the Marines has to, you know, take a blood sample. I don't think that's the case, but if it was, sure, you could throw Mr. 5, Miss Valentine, Miss Doublefinger on that list as well. Let's see, Miss Merry Christmas had a zone. So keep in mind, those were only Paramecia abilities. Zones are easy to replicate, so if they really want to replicate Miss Merry Christmas mole fruit, they could do that fairly easily. That wouldn't even be a challenge to Vegapunk. He probably doesn't even need to have Miss Merry Christmas's lineage factor to make that work. I just wanted to bring her up because, you know, it's Christmas. I'm an elf. All right. So also, there was Corazon, you know, Roshinate, Doflamingo's brother. He was a member of the Marines, so they might have his lineage factor on standby, but he also died like 13 years ago, okay? So I'm not really sure. I'm assuming when you join the Marines, you gotta give a blood sample, like it is with most military organizations in our world. You gotta give a blood test, right? Just for probably, like, make sure you're healthy and you're not on drugs or whatever, right? So they probably have that. But that also brings up another question. What happens if you have a devil fruit user that then dies, but let's say gives a blood sample? Like, let's say Ace's blood is out there somewhere in the world right now. Like, somebody has a vial of Porcus D. Ace's blood in a freezer somewhere, okay? Would that still contain the lineage factor of the Mera Nomi, even though Ace has died? and the Marinomi is now in the possession of Sabo. Now, I understand it's a Logia, so Vegapunk might not be able to recreate it anyway, but let's assume it was, okay? Or in the case with, we don't know if there's another user of Corazone's Calm fruit, but let's assume there was. Even if, you have some of Corazone's blood that was taken when he still had the power, when he was still alive, would it still work for green blood, or would it be a failure? I have this interesting suspicion that it would still work. I feel like if you had some of Corazone's blood in a freezer and you defrosted it and you used whatever science to make it into green blood and gave it to a Seraphim, that Seraphim would still have the Calm fruit. I feel like that would work. So I'm not really sure to include Corazon on there. Somebody else that was a user of a Paramecia that was imprisoned and impelled down was Morley. That's right, the commander of the... Wait, hold on. Morley was the commander of the West. Yeah, the Western Revolutionary Army commander, Morley. She was imprisoned and impelled down, right? Okay. But that was also a long time ago, because Morley's a giant, okay? So I think that was like well over 100 years ago. Morley escaped, and so Vegapunk wasn't around gathering sand. Well, Vegapunk wasn't even alive back then. So that I don't think that would work there with Morley's blood, or if Morley even had a blood sample taken. But those are just some examples, some outliers I wanted to bring up there, okay? But other than that, all those other people on the list are fair game, okay? So, let's go back to a question I posed during the review. I talked about S-Hawk, who's Dracul Mihawk's Seraphim, okay? Because Jinbei and Mihawk are the only two Seraphim models who originally did not have a Devil Fruit at all. Of course, Jinbei does not have a Devil Fruit. Mihawk does not have a Devil Fruit. Boa and Kuma both have their respective Devil Fruits that they still, like their actual bodies have, okay? So, in the situation with Jinbei, they extracted Senor Pink's DNA and gave him the Swim Fruit, which makes sense given it's the Swim Fruit and Jinbei S-Shark is a fishman, okay? Cool. Now, what about Mihawk's Seraphim S-Hawk? It would not make any sense for him, and he has green blood as well, so he definitely has a Devil Fruit ability. So which Devil Fruit ability would be the best give S-Hawk? I arrived on the Dice fruit, the fruit that was utilized by Daz Bones, because he was imprisoned and impelled down. Yes, he was freed from there 2 years ago, but that was still when Vegapunk was doing Devil Fruit research, so he might have extracted... Like, ever since Vegapunk became a member of the government, he might have actually issued a thing or asked the government to, like, every time there's a Devil Fruit user that comes into impel down, get a blood sample for me. Like, that might actually have been the rule, okay? So they might actually have the Dice fruit. They might have Mr. 1 Daz Bones' lineage factor, okay? So obviously that fruit is really useful because he can create blades all over his body. Also, if they do have Miss Doublefinger's DNA, the Spike fruit might also work as well. Now, somebody else brought up, and I included it on the list, Shu. Shu is a Marine captain, or rather he was a Marine captain 2 years ago during Ennie's Lobby, and he is the user of the Rust fruit, which is a fruit that is devastatingly powerful when used against any swordsman or anybody that has armor or anything made of metal. It will rust away into nothing almost immediately. It is crazy that Shu exists and is not relevant at all in the story. He shows up one time, maybe some other times in movies or in non-canon, filler or whatever. He shows up one time in the manga, and not even, like, he shows up in like 2 panels, rusts away Zoro's Yubashiri, and then just leaves. That's it, okay? Or, I mean, I think actually Usopp defeated him with a Firebird star, and that's it, okay? He could have died from Usopp's attack. He didn't, but he could have. You know, we wouldn't know either way in the manga. So, I've always found it funny that there's a really powerful user of this Devil Fruit that's never really relevant, but now that Oda's doing this whole thing with artificial Paramecias, also Blackbeard hunting for really strong Devil Fruit users, I'm thinking, that's what's going to be relevant. Not so much the person, because nobody cares about Shu. Shu has nothing going on really relevant in his life. You know, when on his days off, he's the kind of guy that just goes back to his house and just sits there in a chair. You know, Shu doesn't have a lot of decorations. Shu just has a bed and a table and a chair. He's got a painting of a sad clown on his bathroom wall. That's his, like, most prized possession. So he just sits there in his chair and just kind of waits to go back to work. That's Shu's life. So he doesn't got much stuff going on, all right? But his Devil Fruit, on the other hand, that is more relevant. So I did a video a few years ago, a while back, talking about how which Devil Fruits Blackbeard's crew would want to hunt, like to have on their hit list of Devil Fruits, and I included the Rust Fruit on there for obvious reasons. So they might have it, but also because Shu is a member of the Marines, very easily Vegapunk could get a hold of his lineage factor, and then boom, S-Hawk could have the Rust Fruit. So not only is he a top-tier swordsman, but also if anybody uses a sword against him, he could just rust it away. So it's like the ultimate combination, okay? So there you go. Now, this also brings up something interesting, because it was mentioned earlier that a couple of times during this arc, actually, it was first mentioned when the Sea Beasts, that giant mechanical shark, was attacking the Sunny at the beginning of Egghead, okay? It was mentioned by Lilith that they just can't program away the natural instinct of that living being, okay? And then also, I think it was mentioned because of the green blood in the Seraphim, that does affect their personality in some way. So they have similar personalities to the ones that they're based off of, okay? And it might get kind of a little confusing, especially with like Jinbei, who has like King's DNA, Jinbei's DNA, Senor Pink's DNA, all mixed together in this soup of green blood. But the personalities do shine through a little bit. So I don't know exactly how prominent they are, though, because, like, S-Hawk, if S-Hawk does have Mihawk's personality, then Mihawk would be against using an ability like the Rust Fruit, because, like, it goes against the pride of a swordsman or something like that. But Vegapunk might be able to override that to an extent. Or maybe that's the reason we haven't seen S-Hawk use his Devil Fruit ability yet, because it's like, I have this Devil Fruit Vegapunk gave me. I have the ability to rust a sword, but that's not how real swordsmen do things. Also, by the way, S-Hawk is here. Zoro's also here. I feel like they have to fight at some point. At some point, S-Hawk has to fight against Zoro, and then maybe S-Hawk reveals that he has the Rust Fruit, and then Zoro's like, no, not again, but then Mihawk's Seraphim S-Hawk is like, I won't use it against you, because you're a swordsman, and I'm a swordsman, and I can't go against the pride of a swordsman. I can actually see them doing that direction with it, and then Vegapunk making notes like, okay, their personality may affect their use of Devil Fruits. That's good to know in the future, okay? So that actually might be a plot point, so pay attention to that there. Also, we've only seen 4 of the 7 Warlords of the Sea made into Seraphim. When the Straw Hats first ran into S-Shark, remember he was in front of that tank that said the number 4 on it, okay? So the idea is he was, Seraphim number 4. I don't know if we know the numbers of the other ones, but if we're going to go with, like, who would be the first Seraphim that might have been created? I'm thinking it's S-Bear, because they've been messing with Kuma for so many years. Vegapunk would definitely have his DNA on standby. Okay, so S-Bear, then maybe S-Snake, then S-Hawk, and then Jinbei was confirmed to be number 4. Okay, Jinbei, S-Shark, okay? So what about the 3 remaining original Warlords? Okay, there's been more than them, but we have Moria, we have Crocodile, and we have Doflamingo, okay? And they should have blood samples from all of them. If they have Jinbei's blood, if they have Mihawk's blood, they should have Doflamingo's blood. Plus, Doflamingo's an Impel Down right now, so they should definitely have their hands on that. They should have Moria's blood. He was a member of the Warlords. And they should have Crocodile's blood, okay? Maybe because the Seraphim are a relatively brand new thing that Vegapunk has been building, maybe Doflamingo, Moria, and Crocodile's Seraphims, they're still under construction. Maybe Vegapunk will reveal them coming up, like, oh no, all the Seraphim are attacking. We must use the prototype Seraphim. Seraphim number 5, S-Crocodile. And, Seraphim Crocodile walks out, okay? If they have a good idea about personality affecting the Seraphim, they may want to hold off before activating S-Flamingo. You know what I mean? Because Flamingo, if evil is transferred through blood here, like that might be a problem, okay? Now when it comes to Devil Fruits being used by these new Seraphim, let's say they do make Seraphim versions of Moria, Doflamingo, and Crocodile. Moria and Doflamingo would be fine because they're both Paramecias. Moria, of course, has the Kage Kage no Mi. Doflamingo has the Ito Ito no Mi, the String Fruit, okay? Then we get to Crocodile, who has a Logia. So, barring the exception, maybe Vegapunk could make some version of the Suna no Mi, but not a perfect version. Let's say you got to give the Seraphim Crocodile, S-Croc, a Devil Fruit that's a Paramecia, okay? What would you give S-Crocodile? I was thinking about it for a little bit, and you know which one would... This is a weird choice, but I'm trying to pick a fruit that is similar in nature enough to Crocodile's Suna no Mi, allowing him to manipulate sand, move sand around, okay? I came to 2 possibilities. Number one is a little bit of a stretch, but I find it funny, and that's the Awa Awa Nomi, which is the soap fruit that Khalifa used. Now, Khalifa just got the fruit 2 years ago, but she's a member of Cypher Pole Zero. As in the movie Film Red, we see her as a confirmed member of Cypher Pole Zero. I think that's one of the things about Film Red that is confirmed, that Cypher Pole Zero does conclude the former members of Cypher Pole 9. Okay, so Khalifa is a member, so if they have her lineage factor, I mean, sand and soap is kind of similar, like in terms of like attacks and things like that, but I have a better one. That was a little bit of a stretch, but how about this? Seraphim Crocodile with the Doku Doku Nomi. Magellan's Venom fruit. I think that one would work. I think that would be devastating. We've seen how absolutely powerful that fruit can be. Luffy never really managed to defeat Magellan, all right? He never actually managed to beat him during Impel Down. All they could manage to do was knock him down and stall for some time. But when he had that Venom Demon shit rolling down the hallways, you had to get out of the way. That thing was horrible. All right? Literally a demon straight to hell that, had caustic acid poison that dissolved everything it touched, like an infection, like a virus, okay? So you can't make a sand fruit to give to S-Crocodile. Well, here's the poison fruit. And Magellan, he works for the government. He's a vice warden of Impel Down right now. Hanya Bell became the warden in the time skip. So yeah, Crocodile's walking around dripping poison, using La Spada and stuff like that, except he's using poison instead of sand. That is devastating. In fact, I could see a similar thing. I could see him using that, not wind blade, the sand blade thing he used with his arms, and he stabbed somebody with that, and it normally drained away all their moisture, and then they died. You could see the same thing with poison, stabbing a dude with a poison blade and having their whole body just being shriveled up and just, it hurts, it burns, and then just dying. I think that could work. I think that could work, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, so then we had Moria, Doflamingo. Now, what about the other warlords? So what about Blackbeard? What about Law? And what about Buggy? Okay? Hey everybody, just a quick note as I'm editing this. I forgot to include Weevil here, and I think the reason why I did not include him is because he doesn't have a devil fruit, so I just excluded him from this, but it is still very relevant if there is a Seraphim version of Weevil, because that's the whole point. Even if the actual Weevil does not have a devil fruit, he's already ridiculously strong, and so if they make a Seraphim Weevil, S-Weevil or whatever, I guess it would just be S-Weevil because they're based off of the animal, but in the case with Weevil, the animal is his name to begin with. Anyway, they could give him a crazy powerful devil fruit too. So I'm going to go ahead, let me look at this list here. I'm going to say Weevil's going to get the Ton fruit. Just make his already ridiculously powerful body even more heavy and powerful. Weevil could jump into the air, turn into 10,000 tons, and just like a meteor crash, just destroy the entire island of whatever he hits. That's all you need right there. Now, Blackbeard did have a devil fruit when he joined the Warlords, but he was only part of the Warlords for like 2 weeks before he left. He was only there just, so he could gain access to Marineford and Impel Down and all that kind of stuff. Plus, he had a Logia at the time. Although, that would be interesting if Vegapunk did get a blood sample of Blackbeard, and he does have an example of the Yami Yami Nomi. All right, once again, it's a Logia. He might not be able to perfectly recreate it, but if Vegapunk has DNA from the Yami Yami, some stuff could be done with that. Maybe don't throw that in the garbage. Put that in the freezer for later study, okay? That could be useful. He wouldn't have gotten his hands on Whitebeard's Gura Gura because Blackbeard defected at that point. Blackbeard might not even have had the blood test or, the opportunity, right? He was just part of the Warlords for a very, very brief amount of time. But what about Law and what about Buggy? I feel like with Buggy, they would have the Bara Bara Nomi, because I feel like Buggy would do anything in order to become a warlord, so if they asked him for a blood test, he would gladly give it to them with zeal. He'd be like, oh, sure, absolutely, if you just give me that status of warlord, I'll give you all the blood you want. Here, you can have my arm. Buggy pulls off his arm, there you go. And he's like, no, sir, we just need, a little bit of blood, that's all we need. He's like, okay, so that's that. So they might actually have the Bara Bara, in which case, I've even heard heard some people talking about S-Hawk and like maybe the Bara because, you know, Mihawk and Buggy had that little exchange during Marineford. So if Mihawk had that ability to be immune from swords, so the ability to destroy swords with the Rust fruit and the ability to be immune to swords with the Bara Nomi, both of those would work really, really well. Or the Dice fruit, for obvious reasons, would work really, really well for S-Hawk, okay? I love this. Now Oda's basically playing around with like, okay, so if you could give Mihawk any devil fruit, what would you give him? Because I'm actually going to do that in the story. It's crazy, okay? And then we have Law. Law was a member of the Warlords for a while. I don't know if it was for the full 2 years of the time skip, maybe a year and a half. Oh, we don't know when the Rocky Port incident occurred, but it was like right after, I think, the Rocky Port that he was made into a warlord. So, well, maybe actually no, when he became a warlord, that was a separate thing where he sent the hearts to the Marine headquarters. That was like a separate thing altogether. So it might have been for maybe close to 2 years. They would probably have his blood. Like, if that's part of the process, you know, I mean, Blackbeard being a little bit of an exception because they were in the middle of going into war, you know, they might have not have gone, you know, taken Blackbeard through the orientation like every other warlord. They'd be like, okay, we'll deal with that later. You have to fight in the war right now, you know? And then Blackbeard went off and did his own thing anyway. So they might not have Blackbeard's blood, but I think they would have Buggies, and I think they would have Laws. Okay, so now we get Seraphim S-Clown and well, actually, Law's hat is based off of a seal. So it'd be S-Clown, S-Seal, S-Crocodile, S-Flamingo, and S-Gecko. All right? The S-Gecko is great at selling car insurance at a low rate. Just letting it know. If you need car insurance in the One Piece world, go to S-Gecko. All right? But, dude, if they could replicate Law's fruit, the Op fruit, I mean, the things... Oh, my God. Wait. Whoa. Hold on a moment. Replicate the Op fruit, give it to a Seraphim, have the Seraphim perform the immortal surgery, make another Seraphim with the same Op fruit, have them perform ageless surgery. So this is why the time and resources, Quasar, time and resources. How am I supposed to make an army of Laws? You know, like, that takes time. Oda might actually not have them have the Op fruit for that reason alone. You could really hack the system with that. You could freaking spam the crap out of immortal surgeries on everybody. That's not cool. You know, there's other devil fruits that have that ability too, like Mansherry. They wouldn't have Mansherry's heal fruit, but if they did, the ability to heal an object or a thing, you know, at the cost of a person's life, same difference. Like, you can't be spamming that over and over and over again. That would kind of break the system. So that they probably don't have the Op fruit. And since Law is a relatively new member of the Warlords, and also he's a doctor and he's smart. So if they would have asked him for a blood sample, Law might have been smart enough to know not to give him his blood. He might have given him Beppo's blood or something like that. Like, we've made S-Seal with Law's own blood, and it comes out as like, it's just Beppo wearing Law's outfit. It's Beppo cosplaying Law. Like, hello everybody, I'm S-Bear 2, you know? Or no, he still calls himself, I'm S-Seal. Hi everybody. And they're just like, don't think that worked out too well. And then meanwhile, wherever Law's at right now, he sneezes and Beppo sneezes. It's like, I feel like something's going on right now. That honestly would have been the smart thing for Law to do. Swap out the blood samples, and he could do that very easily. So I think that's probably the better move rather than the government getting their hold of the Op fruit. Anyway. But yeah, so that's the situation with that, all right? Also, keep in mind, most of the admirals are Logias, except for Fujitora, who has the Zushi no Mi, which is a Paramecia. So, like, if you really can't come up with any idea for a good fruit to give to one of the Seraphim, just give them the Zushi no Mi. Just give them the gravity fruit at default. It doesn't matter who you give that to. It's going to be powerful. Also, here's something else I was thinking about the other day. Seraphim are artificial, and the green blood is artificial as well. He's making this. What's stopping Vegapunk from just making, like, 10 different S-Hawks, 10 different S-Sharks, maybe mix and matching some devil fruits for each one? What's to stopping him from making another S-Shark that also has the swim fruit? Just make 2 of them. if it's all just like taking the DNA, I mean, obviously time, money, and resources. That's what Vegapunk's been mentioning this entire arc. In fact, I think that might be the reason why Oda, in case anybody like me asks that question of just like, hey, how come there's not a whole army of Jinbeis? Vegapunk's like, time and resources, Quasar, time and resources. Like, okay, time and resources, I gotcha. But he could. There's really nothing stopping him other than time and resources, okay? He could make multiple S-Sharks, multiple S-Hawks, all with different Devil Fruit abilities, all with the original capabilities of the original. He could do that, and beyond. He could easily do that. So I wanted to bring that up there. Let's go through that list of other Devil Fruits that we have here. We had Fujitoras, Magellans, Buggies, Boas, and Akumas we already saw. We got Galdino's Wax Fruit. That would be really useful. I could actually even see Crocodile with that, because I think the Devil Fruit that would work best for Crocodile, a Paramecia that replicates or is very similar to Logia. You know how like sometimes you get confused because Logia allows you to turn into the element. Paramecia is like the Doku Doku no Mi and the Doru Doru no Mi allow you to summon the element but not turn into the element. So Galdino can summon wax, but he can't turn into wax, okay? But it's similar enough that I think a Logia would be right at home using those abilities, okay? So that's why I picked the Doku Doku for Crocodile, but it could easily be the Doru Doru, the Wax Fruit as well. Inazuma's Snip Fruit, Emporio Ivankov's Hormone Fruit, because they were both imprisoned and impaled down for a time. San Juan Wolf was imprisoned in level 6. He had his Devil Fruit before he joined the Blackbeard crew, and it's a Paramecia that allows him to increase in size. So just honestly give that one to S-Hawk. We can have a giant Mihawk the size of the Empire State Building, you know what I mean? That would be terrifying. So then we get into the Doflamingo family, the rest of the Doflamingo family. We have Diamante's Flag Fruit, Treble's the Mucus Fruit, the Beta Beta no Mi, Pika's Ishi no Mi, the Stone Assimilation Fruit. That would be really useful. You could make another Jinbei Seraphim and give the Stone Assimilation Fruit to him, and I think it would be really powerful. Gladys's Pop Fruit, the Exploding Fruit, Sugar's Hobby no Mi. Yeah, if you have the Hobby no Mi into a Seraphim, we saw how devastating that power was during Dressrosa, so that would be scary. Giola's Art Fruit. Even in that case, would be interesting. It managed to, like, really encumber the Sunny, enabling, not enabling it to leave, okay, and changing the structure of things. That's really what the Art Fruit is. We have Senor Pink's Mach Vice's Tun Fruit. So, not Miss Valentine's Kilo no Mi, but actually the upgraded form of that, the Tun Fruit. You could even give that, as I said in the video, you can give pretty much any Paramecia to S-Hawk, doesn't matter, but give him the Tun Fruit. He could swing his sword, and with, like, turning his sword into 10 tons of force, and boom! Slicing the entire island in half. We have Buffalo's Whirl Fruit. They basically the fruit that allows them to spin a lot and fly. Suru, who is a Marine, a Vice Admiral, her Wash Fruit, the ability to turn the people into, laundry, to hang them out to dry, to clean out their hearts a little bit. Hina's Fruit, which Hina doesn't show up that often, but she has, I think, the Oro no Mi, which allows her to turn her body into a cage. Black Cage Hina is her epithet, so that would be very devastating for trapping various people. Shu has the Rust Fruit. Very Good has the Berry no Mi, the Berry Fruit. That is basically the same as Buggy's Bara, except he separates into balls rather than into body parts. Then we have Sharin Guru, who has the only manga exclusive only Devil Fruit in the story. So it's a fruit that only exists in the manga and not in the anime. It allows to turn his body into wheels and spin his body like a wheel. Okay, he was one of the people that showed up during Ennie's lobby. For whatever reason, they excluded his Devil Fruit from the anime, but it is still manga, and I would love to see it back in the story again. Then we have Khalifa's Awa, and ending it out with another really powerful one, Bluino's Door Fruit. If anybody saw Film Red, you know how powerful the Door Fruit was. They really tried to get, like, every teleportation ability in Film Red. They had the Door Fruit, you had Uta's Fruit, you had Law's Fruit, you got a lot of them in there. So that's just one I wanted to talk about today, just going through some options for future Seraphim having future Paramecia abilities and really what this means for the story. So let me know down below what your favorite Devil Fruit was and why, and the whole deal with Logias, and which Devil Fruits you would like S-Hawk to have, and if we have S-Crocodile, S-Seal, S-Gecko, and S-Flamingo, and S-Clown, what their abilities would be as well. With that being said, now let's go on to Porygon Facts, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so in this episode of Porygon Facts, we're going to talk about how you upgrade your Porygon. That's right, in Gen 1, he was a single-stage Pokemon, but just like with any good piece of software, you gotta have upgrades. You gotta have some DLCs, you know? So in Gen 2, they took Porygon to a whole new level. They smoothed him out! You know, kind of the idea is that Porygon is a polygon, so like old 8-bit consoles, and then as the technology improves, it smooths out a little bit more, and that's where we get Porygon 2. So in order to get a Porygon 2, during Gen 2, you have to get the upgrade disc from the Sylph Company, and then you can trade your Porygon holding the upgrade disc, and then boom, you got a Porygon 2. Porygon 2 has a new move called Conversion 2, which is just a better version of the original move, Conversion. But that's not all, ladies and gentlemen. A couple of generations later in Gen 4, we have the third and final evolution of Porygon, unless they ever give him a Mega or a Gigantamax or something else, or maybe a different region variant. That would actually be really cool. If Gen 10 takes place in like on a space station or in space or something like that, you could do a version of Porygon. Porygon should be the easiest. We should honestly have different versions of Porygon every single generation. Because think about it, he's a Pokemon that lives in cyberspace. You can literally get him and then modify his code into a water type, an electric type, a ghost type, anytime you want. Every generation, it's like Eevees. Even more than Eevees. Even more so than Eevees. We should be having more Porygons, okay? Well, anyway, fine. In Gen 4, we have Porygon Z. Porygon Z is after you trade a Porygon 2 holding the dubious disc, okay? And the idea is hacking or corruption, okay? So Porygon 2 is corrupted with this dubious disc with dubious code in it. I think you actually get it from Team Galaxy's hideout. And I don't know, I never played Gen 2. I'm in Gen 4. And then, you get a Porygon Z, which is like the coolest form of Porygon. He's like floating around and stuff. He's just like, he's been hacked or something like that. Which I always find it funny that you have to get the upgrade disc and the dubious disc. So it's kind of like, let's say, you know, hey guys, would you like to buy Elden Ring for the PlayStation 4? And that's the upgrade disc. It's very legitimate. Here you go, PlayStation 4. Here it is. Like, okay, cool. That's the upgrade disc. Now, may I interest you in Elden Ring 2 for the PS5. Yeah, this is a totally legitimate actual video game right here. This is not a dubious disc at all, yes. Anyway, I'm taking 5,000 Poke Dollars for this. It's like, okay, thank you, here you go. Here is your dubious disc, sir. You know, there you go. It's basically like that. Okay, well, anyway, that's your Porygon fact for the day. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tekking, signing out. Merry Christmas if I don't make another video. I probably will, though. See ya.